On Thursday, September the 4th, 2014, the Black Caucus Foundation of Michigan got together at the Governor's Conference Room in Cadillac Place in Detroit, Michigan for a very special event. It was called the Bridges to Homeownership Conference. This information-filled and educational event was organized by Utility Services of America, the Black Caucus Foundation of Michigan, Wayne County, with additional support from the City of Detroit, MSHDA, and the State of Michigan. Also, the Detroit Land Bank, Wayne County Treasurer, and the State of Michigan. The goal of the Bridges to Homeownership Conference was to highlight the importance of local homeownership to Detroit's neighborhood revitalization and its future economic growth. In addition, they wanted people to be aware of the ongoing challenge of understanding how homeownership purchases strengthen the city's tax base and economy, clarifying the importance of Detroiters owning homes, also living and investing in the city, plus how to work with city, county, and state agencies to its fullest advantage. Homeowners learn to solve problems regarding understanding working with available resources, auctions, taxes, and county reverting, as well as where to find bid opportunities. Then once you find them, how to prepare a proper bid or quote for submittal. Also discussed what programs are in place to greatly benefit the citizens of Detroit in developing a solid knowledge base for winning relationships, plus why and how to develop a working relationship with your banker, the need to find homes through community, state, and city resources, and then develop them with the available resources in the City of Detroit.
The School Anchor Initiative, which is the Neighborhood Stabilization School Anchor Strategy, is using schools and neighborhoods as an anchor, pretty much how you would do it in a larger area by using either a university or hospital as an anchor for developing that neighborhood, to stabilize it in terms of its residency, to create efforts around the school that translates into a quality of life for residents and families near that school. And so what we've done is we've spent some money in terms of light elimination. We have some departments participating with services in the schools. We have an AmeriCorps initiative that works in conjunction with law enforcement, and an AmeriCorps Urban Safety Initiative that is already showing a reduction in crime after less than a year of being in operation. And we have efforts to enhance lighting. And with that, there are a number of other foundations and groups that have layered strategies in the areas that we've targeted in the City of Detroit.
Communities Without Borders is a wonderful organization that is a partner with all of our efforts, a leader in developing healthy communities in the United States and in Africa and in other parts of the world, solving problems of community division, solving problems of exclusion and poverty and sometimes conflict. And Communities Without Boundaries is taking the lead on this challenge of sustainable development and working together with the United Nations system, specifically with the United Nations Sustainable Development Solutions Network, which I direct for the Secretary General of the UN, to work with Detroit, New York, Baltimore, and other communities in this country on these great challenges. All over the world, countries are facing problems of poverty, of economies that are not working well, of big social inequalities, and of environmental crises. And that's why all over the world we need initiatives to achieve sustainable development. The world will adopt sustainable development goals, but those goals can't just be words on paper at the national level. They have to be helpful to communities and metropolitan areas all over the world. So our initiative in the United States is make these new sustainable development goals meaningful, helpful for communities like Metro Detroit. And that's why we're here in Detroit and why we'll be launching similar initiatives in Baltimore and New York and in other great cities of this country. But Detroit's first, I'm proud to say. As a native Detroiter, I'm especially proud to say it.
The county is reverting properties because in the last 3 years we've sold over 30,000 properties, and out of those 30,000, 2/3 of the people did not pay the taxes on the property. This has to stop. There's a culture that has developed that believes that taxes are optional. That can't be the case. When you own a home and own a property, there are certain responsibilities, and one of those is the payment of taxes. And by enforcing the reverter, we are collecting those taxes and making sure people step up to their obligation. The Black Caucus Foundation is incredibly helpful in getting the word out to people. A lot of people don't trust us. They look at the treasurer and think you're a government employee, you're not out for my best interest. We are out for your best interest, but many people don't accept that. By working with community groups, church groups, we are able to get the word out. They understand our programs, and also it's very important that they can get the information into the neighborhood in an understandable fashion. We try to do that, we try to break this down, but we know that there are many people who need help understanding these programs, and they're incredibly helpful in bridging that gap.
Because neighborhoods are the heart of the city. Neighborhoods are just where people live, and people make up a community. And so if you have strong communities, you definitely will have a strong city, which builds a strong county. And so that's why it's absolutely important. It's very critical. And then it feeds into a bigger system. So when you have great neighborhoods, you'll have great schools, you'll have great grocery stores, and what's the word? It just pollinates and it expands. So that's why it's essential to make sure we have really great communities.
Well, I think it's important to build home ownership in the city of Detroit because one, it establishes a sense of pride, but what it does is it really stabilizes the communities. Home ownership within these communities has people investing in where they live because they own their homes and they reside there. They care more about the neighborhood, and what it does is it brings the overall community. It brings it together, and it brings it to a state in which it can flourish. Someone who owns their home and it belongs to them, they generally tend to take care of it. And I think what it would do, it will also help to reduce crime within our neighborhood and kind of bring back that togetherness that our communities have been needing.
Well, one of the things that we really have to try to have additional discussions with HUD on is the effectiveness of the Step Forward program and their use of hardest hit funds. I mean, those resources can be used to help homeowners pay property taxes, but it is a very challenging process for some families to complete the paperwork. Access points for getting through that process are difficult. The funds have been applied when people can get through it, but the average family does have difficulty with the volume of paperwork, the requirements, and there's got to be a way to streamline that process so the intended deliverable is there. The other thing that we have to figure out is how to have a land contract for a tenant, how to make that legal document eligible for federal fund support. And what I mean is if a family maybe has minor credit capability, but they're able to find a home and enter into a legal land contract for that property, there should be a way that they still can get homeowner assistance utilizing federal funds. It's a tough policy discussion right now. That restriction stops a lot of activity on the home improvement and rehabilitation side from occurring in Detroit, but the mere fact that in the last fiscal year not a single development loan for low-income families was approved in Detroit signals that we've got to do something different and do something better. And so I'm very hopeful that as we have our policy conference during the Congressional Black Caucus, and of course the HUD staff that will be in attendance, is going to be very interested to figure out, to learn what we've done, what we're having challenges with. But we've got to figure out a way to address low-income families, as well as address families that are doing all the right things, but just are not in a position to own because they're purchasing properties by land contract. Well, the Bridges to Ownership program is one of the program components in the African American Commerce Initiative, which includes our Bridges to Entrepreneurship, our Bridges to Work, and Bridges to Ownership. There are a lot of renters in the city of Detroit, people that, for whatever reason, are not homeowners. We want to be able to create a seamless opportunity for a family to transition from renting to owning. And some of that includes addressing both financial literacy and helping them establish budgets that will allow them to pay all their bills and live a decent quality life and maintain a property. That process now is challenged by agency coordination as well as resource coordination. We certainly are happy to have the kind of support to work to bring that coordination together, and the timing I think is good because of what is occurring both at the county treasurer's office and the mayor's emphasis on neighborhood stabilization. So the objective of the Bridges to Ownership program is to give interested parties the capability to move from being a tenant to being a homeowner, specifically focusing on young people that are moving through our K through 12 system into a work readiness capacity that allows them to take advantage of some of the public infrastructure projects underway in terms of employment, and then as part of that also giving them the education and literacy they need to be homeowners. Two, taking skilled labor that has been laid off and on the bench that are not homeowners and trying to transition them into home ownership as they're called back to work as a result of the intense amount of infrastructure investment in public projects that are moving forward. And then lastly, current tenants now that are renting that have not thought to even look at the option of home ownership because of credit constraints they have. We're very fortunate to have Michigan Banker Association members like Talmer Bank and Liberty Bank that have stepped up specifically to try to help with that process. Talmer Bank in particular has a very, very innovative a package that allows for rehabilitation loans to be forgiven for persons that are moving into those disparate properties. So they're in combination. The mayor has said over and over again that part of Detroit's economic revitalization is going to be hinged on job creation through small business development and entrepreneurship. The African American Commerce Initiative focuses on driving that process by using the development of homeowner value as a catalyst for an income reserve that could be used for small business investment. The Bridges to Work program creates a seamless process between K through 12 in general and specifically what used to be vocational education, transforming it into career and technology education that offers stackable certificates for work readiness that allows students to work, go to school, not only obtain their high school diploma, but also pre-apprentice certification, work readiness certification, so that they can move seamlessly into a skilled occupation, whether they pursue an additional higher education or not. We are so very pleased with the work that Emergency Manager Martin has done in collaborating with Dr. Berry, who now is helping to reconstruct vocational education into career and technology classes in the city of Detroit. Kevin Smith, the Chief of Staff at DPS, has done a masterful job moving at light speed to rearrange that construct. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge Dave Meter, who is the Chief Administrative Officer at DTE Energy, for meeting literally weekly throughout the summer to design a career readiness program for Detroit students that creates a real job opportunity. What has never been done before is that ninth grade students that enroll at our career technical schools like Randolph Vocational on the west side of Detroit will not only be able to enroll in high school, but they'll be able to enroll in community college and in some instances in college at the same time. WC3, Wayne County Community College, will be providing adjunct professors at the facility, so some of these students, as they assess, will be taking collegiate courses. They'll be able to graduate from high school with a high school diploma, and in some instances, in that extra year, they'll be able to come out with their associate's degree. Fair State is on board, and I don't want to start calling universities, I'll get in trouble when I omit one. But Dr. Berry, Judith Berry, has been a godsend for DPS, City of Detroit, and for local residents. But none of these things will work in isolation. We have to work on neighborhoods. We have to work on developing income and entrepreneurship. We have to work on developing residential value and family wealth. We have to have a healthy city in order for all these things to work and for Detroit to have livable neighborhoods. I think the coalitions that are developing around these processes understand how complex it is. It is vertical in nature. So at the same time you're trying to create jobs up high, you can't forget that there are low-income families that need additional support. So I'm thankful that the challenge is big, but the collaboration and willingness to send resources, I think, where they're most needed. I'm very happy that the push has finally been there to focus attention on how to interrelate agency resources so that they have a meaningful impact for families.